Okay, well, so I Myron, is it okay if since it's the first thing on the agenda, if I go
Yeah,
ahead and show what
yeah,
I
yes.
have for,
Mhm.
oops, that's not sharing. Oh, okay, no, I am sharing the right screen. So you should be seeing right now, which is kind of a start to a college student survey. So I mentioned, so Leslie Garvin is on my other committee. She's on the voter infrastructure and administration. And we were talking about a college student survey. And so she'd be interested in helping us push that out because she works with NC Engage, which is basically all of the campuses
Okay.
have access or subscribe or are members of this organization that tries to promote civic engagement on the part of college students. So if we can get a survey together, which I think I would like to do, assessing some of the barriers to college student voting. If you guys are up for that or want to push it, this is what I sort of started with.
Okay.
So my thinking is, and then I will also say that Ted oops, that's not the right thing. Ted's also sent today here it is. Is this it?
Yeah,
Some
it's very
ideas
comprehensive.
about what he would want to know from a college student survey. So you can see what I put, right? Can you see what he has?
If you could,
Was everything on that screen? I'm just not sure what it actually shows.
can you blow his up a little bit?
I can make it take the whole screen and then give it a
Okay.
bigger,
Yeah.
I should be able to make that bigger, right? Where do I do that? Here? Oh, here we go. Let me make it
That's
font.
just the font. Oh yeah, you can also, well, that does make it
No, I want to
bigger.
put a little thing right here. Usually there's a positive and is this something
Seem
impressive?
like over the three dots near your little your face, the uppermost face.
It may be
Um,
under
yeah, see where it
view.
says zoom down there, where it's currently at 100%.
Oh,
Like,
here it is. You're
yeah,
right. It is at 100%. How's
yeah. Well,
that?
that doesn't mean you can't blow it up, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. That was helpful.
Hmm.
So Ted's were, he wanted to know, are they registered to vote? And for me, I want to know where they're registered to vote. Like, are they registered to vote at home with their folks, right? Their parents or their guardians? Or are they registered to vote at school? Did you vote in the last election? Are you likely to vote in the next election? How easy or difficult do you find voting? Do you know that you can vote early before actual election day? We're on the same wavelength, Ted. Do you know that you can vote? Do you know that you can request a mail an absentee ballot to the county where you are registered?
Hmm.
Would same day registration entice you to vote? Interestingly, it's one of the few policy things that we do, I would say, that actually increases the likelihood of people voting is same day registration.
Yeah.
Did you
Agreed.
know that you can register same day at an early voting place? Well, I guess it's kind of dumb for me to sit here and read it, except for, maybe Ted
Yeah,
can't see.
may I just kind of editorialize where I pulled these
Yeah.
from? After the prompts yesterday, I kind of tried to think about both what had already been accomplished in terms of building surveys like this, and then I also tried to think from the perspective of a student who might be having questions about how to register. So I pulled these from three places in addition to my own suspicions about the types of questions that might be helpful for us to know. And so one of the resources that I used was the U.S. Department of Education toolkit that they provide to higher institution learnings, and that in combination with a simple Google search that said, "How do I vote as a college student?" which elicited one of the other resources that was very helpful. And I took that information and those sets of questions and kind of tried to create a little bit of, I guess, what we would call push polling, something that would increase education and awareness in addition to giving us an opportunity to understand what are the barriers for college students. What I found in both the Department of Education toolkit and also in the, what was the other source called? The Best Colleges, I guess, is what the resource was, but it was a pretty comprehensive voting guide for college students. What I found in both of those is that they were collecting information both about barriers to actually getting to the polling place, as well as kind of the psychological issues that might be surrounding a young 18 to 24, 25-year-old about why they wouldn't go to vote. So, feelings of alienation from politicians and a sense of whether their one vote really counted. I tried to pull those sorts of questions out of what we are interested in asking. So I'll stop there, but that's kind of generally where I pulled those questions from, and I think that they certainly need a lot of polishing and reordering. But that's kind of where that question bank came from. And I apologize, Martha, I did not open up your document in time to sort of A/B.
Well, we're on the same
the
wavelength on
repeated
a lot of
questions.
these, so that's okay. So here's what I started from, and then I started from just some general ideas of what are the barriers to college student voting, interest in voting, mobilization from outside groups, maybe. How much does your campus work to get you to vote? And is there a polling place on your campus, right? Because that kind of gets to what Nadine was talking about last week, having to cross 6 lanes of traffic for the students to vote. So the first one was like, are you registered to vote? And then are you, I think then, do you live on campus? Did anyone ask you to vote? Did anyone ask you face to face to register to vote? Or was it a campus employee or some outside group maybe? Are you registered to vote at your school address? Then I asked, I thought if we were going to do this, we'd probably do it sometime maybe after September, and then maybe after the election, except for that doesn't give us enough time to put this in our final report, does it? I'd have to go back and review the schedule.
Okay.
But I was thinking the most recent election for them would have been yesterday's election. So I pulled some questions from the survey of the performance of American elections. So which of the following statements best describes you? So the idea is to give them a bunch of statements to react to. So if they didn't vote, they'd maybe be more willing to share that information, is the idea. Like, I did not vote in the primary. I thought about it, but I didn't, right? Trying to give them excuses. And then there's also then, why didn't you vote? So the survey of the performance of American elections out of MIT has a bunch of questions like, I forgot, I'm not interested, too busy, didn't like the candidates, I'm not registered. You can see kind of what they are. I'll make it even a little bigger. So just, I put the meeting chat on there so you could see that I put Ted's 3 links in the chat, so you could go to them if you want to. The line at the polls was too long. I mean, this is a long list, but this is what they use on the survey of the performance of American elections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, Martha, that was one of my questions. Do we have, or what kind of parameters or limitations do we have on terms of number of questions? Are these generally considered to be, assume they're going to be longer surveys?
So I envision this being an online survey,
Correct, right, me
but
too.
I also don't envision that college students are going to be very patient.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I was wondering, because for my organizations, our community engagement efforts, which are many these days, we often do surveys, and we're kind of coached to sort of keep them shorter just because of people's attention span. And these are people from the community, and plus they're
And they care.
newspaper
Yeah.
readers, right? So they're going to be a little bit older. So, I just think it's something to keep in mind, and I don't think it needs to be like 3 questions. I mean, we want to be able to get some useful information. So maybe it would be useful now that we have this for um, a couple of us to just, narrow it down, get the list down, and then maybe send it back out and see if the group thinks, I'm speaking after this meeting, and see if the group thinks we hit the mark.
So
Hey, this is
Nadine.
Ted.
Oh,
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that feels right to me, Myron, as well. And I think it hinges a little bit on the question that you raised, Martha, of when this survey is shared and what the objective it is really. Are we looking to kind of provide some information for students in addition to collecting information, or is this a very objective, just trying to collect information? In which case, it's a lot easier to get to the spot that Myron suggests, which is, we could certainly carve this down to the 5 or maybe 10 questions that are really looking to understand what are the limitations to you casting a vote.
Right. And we shouldn't shy away from compound questions too.
hey now, the survey
Little-
researchers don't
little
like those
survey trick.
compound questions. You know that,
Well,
Myron.
it's a Q&A trick that I use of sources. So I just have about 3 questions, and each question has like 2 or 3 questions.
So,
Yeah,
so
I think
Nadine has her
I
hand up.
definitely think you and Ted, you are definitely on the right track. I mean, I think it's best to start off with the comprehensive list that sort of covers all bases. Before, you don't want to narrow down and leave something out that's important. So this is a great starting basis here.
So Nadine has her hand up.
Yes.
So I guess my 2 cents for this would be, I think maybe drop questions about asking them if they voted. I mean, I know like at UNCW, no one was talking about the primaries. We didn't have that many races on the ballot. Like, it wasn't that, I mean, I feel like you're gonna get a lot of people say they didn't vote because they didn't remember, or they weren't interested, or they're just very apathetic, which if we have to deal with space, like, I mean, the general election is like the one we're concerned about, right? So that would be my 2 cents if we're trying to shorten things up. But I also personally don't like the idea of like the push-pull aspect. Because, okay, the survey is going to go out to a certain amount of people. Great if we can encourage that. But the idea is like we want to gather that information so that we can make a bigger recommendation or have information that will capture non-people who answered the poll, right? So I think I like the idea of the knowledge questions, but maybe not phrase it as like, do you know? Rather just ask them, is this true, or something. We would have to brainstorm it, but I know students, they know that someone's reading the survey and they're not going to want to look stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, you
so
know what? Can I send this? I should put this in the sorry, Nadine, I really didn't mean to cut you off, but it occurred to me I should put this in the chat too. Maybe can everybody access this tab? Okay, sorry, but they don't want to look stupid. Please continue.
Yeah, I mean, well, we want to actually gauge their actual information, or like, or how much they actually know about what's going on. Like, do they know about these policies? Not ask them, do you know this? Which is like a yes or no answer. Rather, maybe ask them to like, do they actually know the policies? And maybe even put in some policies like drop boxes, which I'm pretty sure we don't have, right? Like, see if they think that there's drop boxes, but we really don't have them. Or maybe there's some misconceptions. Like, that might be a nice little way of capturing here some misconceptions that students have about voting.
Right.
Like, we could ask them, do they know the timelines, or like, we could ask them, do you know, or maybe not, do you know, just like a true or false or something, like you can register to vote on election day, which is like the little wrinkle of that same day registration is that you can't do it on election day. You can only do it early voting. So if we have so many students saying, oh, I thought I could register on election day and show up and can't, like, I would think that would be interesting to see if there's misconceptions, and you could do it like pretty easily in a survey, in a grid, or just a very kind of, you know, the true false. Students know true false. They'll know what we're talking about.
Nadine,
Hmm.
you're probably as best qualified to answer this as anyone. What length of survey do you think students would be patient for? I mean, just realistically. And I know it's
Well,
probably not a hard and fast number, but
I would say like has to be like 5 minutes or something.
right. So length
But
of
also
time is a
who's
good way to
giving
look
the
at
survey? Who's
it.
gonna who is the like authority giving the students the survey? If it's just Dr. Gibson and this is for extra credit in my class, yeah, I'll give them a 30-minute survey and they'll answer every single question. But if it's, you know, maybe we could get the chancellors to put their stamp on it, or I don't know, or so, if there has, I know at UNCW students are extraordinarily apathetic about absolutely everything. It's a bit like extra credit isn't even enough for a lot of things anymore. So getting them to do anything, I don't know if it's true at other schools, but UNCW is like the students have become extraordinarily like apathetic or won't even do extra credit anymore. So if you guys have any ideas about incentives, that would probably be the determinant, if there's some sort of incentive to keep them, to get them to do it. Otherwise, I'm not sure they would even open it up.
Martha,
I'm curious to hear you say that,
go
Nadine.
ahead.
I'm sorry, and I apologize. I'm doing this from a phone, so I can't see people's hands up and so on. So I really do apologize if I'm talking over people. Nadine, your point about apathy, in some ways, that almost answers a polling question for us, right? Because it's not a one-to-one correlation, but a person of voting age who doesn't feel like they can be inconvenienced to take a poll about voting is probably unlikely to make an effort to vote. And it seems to me the data that would come back from a statewide survey of the 150 or so institutions in the state, one of the data sets that we get back is this many, N is this number, and we asked this many people these sets of questions, which is to say, we asked a whole bunch of people, but only this small fraction of people actually answered, and that would tell us the extent to which apathy is the issue about what the real barrier to voting might be for some voters.
Great comments there, and it makes me think, sort of returning back to even the title of our committee, voter access and registration. Maybe we can make it narrow to the point: what affects your voter access? You know, basically, in other words, trying to ferret out like what real barriers there are for college students, in their own words, so to speak. You know, because we're asking them. And I think if we kind of narrow it down to that'll probably wind up with maybe, you know, 5, 6, a couple more questions, something that's not too painful. I mean, you know, it's not even just young folks. I personally do not. Once the survey starts going past about 15
Yay.
questions, I'm ready to tap out. So
Alternatively, we
yeah.
could do a focus group. If we had focus groups, like we got 20 students at a bunch of universities, I bet I mean, we could have actual qualitative data and ask them to elaborate.
And
I
build
think,
on each other.
yeah, I think that
And
might be more helpful than 1,000 students having some really good qualitative data from like 100 students, right?
I don't know, Nadine, I agree. Like, a qualitative data would be really interesting, because that's kind of what Myron is suggesting, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And interesting to analyze, but holy moly, that would take a lot of time.
Yeah, that's my
And I'm not
only
sure that
concern
we
about
have
that.
that kind of time to do that. You and I might, talk about collaborating on something like that later, but
Yeah, that's really, I think, I really love the idea of sitting down and talking with people, focus groups. You do get a deeper level of knowledge, but it is a bear to organize. I had mentioned the community engagement efforts that my company does, and that's always one we enjoy it when it's all set up and we're talking to people. But there's a lot of steps that go into it, and I just think we're going to run out of calendar.
I like to piggyback off Nadine. For some reason, I can't get my hand to raise, man. So I apologize right on camera.
No, you're fine.
But sort of what Nadine said, I think like a audience would be great because, like, honestly, I do work on the college campuses, and a lot of the campuses, even in Charlotte, they have like I call it like fatigue, right? It's just so many organizations out there just hounding the students. But if you get like, if I do a classroom workshop, just like Nadine said, they'll just all do it, right? If I have a table set up outside the student union, we might register like 10 students. But if like I have a classroom with 30 students, I know that they all have to update their voter registration. And I think another thing, another question that we utilize a lot is not asking them like, have you voted or did you vote last year? Have you moved since you last voted? Because a lot of times people don't really think about that. They really just think about, I did vote. Did you vote? Yeah, but I mean, I registered probably 70, 80% of the people because they've moved since they last voted. Like my cousin called me yesterday and she's like, hey, can I go vote? I'm like, I told you last week to go to early voting because she just hadn't updated her voter registration. So I'm like, you're in a pickle right now. So I mean, so that's one of the especially with the college campuses, because a lot of the students you're going to approach, you're going to say, are you registered to vote? Yeah. But like at Johnson and Wales University, there's 3 addresses. So they have to change their address if they move from the north to the south dorm, right? If you're at John C. Smith, they have UPO numbers. So that's one of the biggest things also remember when we're working with the college campuses. It's just not getting them registered. One of the biggest things is updating their voter registrations, because a lot of them will hit you with, oh, I'm registered. And then you're like, oh, okay, have a good day. And you're not asking them the real thing is like, hey, have you moved since you last voted? And they're like, you know what? I have moved. And it's like, oh, we need to update your voter registration. So
Uh, Great comments, Brandon, Nadine. Martha, do you know if Leslie Garvin, let's say that we were to take a look at a focus group type event, does she have experience with that in college students, or could she provide some assistance with that?
I can ask her.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect Nadine or myself are probably able to run a focus group.
Mm-hmm.
Though she has she has some young staff that might hit students better. Could her group run a focus group?
And my question for our group here is, are we talking 2 or 3 focus groups, 4 or 5, or are we talking one big focus group?
Is there a creative way to do this that we would get the same kind of information, but we wouldn't have to organize focus groups?
Rachel?
That's a really good question. I'm not exactly sure I have an answer to that, but I can definitely look into it and see what I can find.
Okay. Because I would not know. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of focus groups, but I just don't see how we could. Whereas we could push out a survey fairly quickly.
No, I mean,
but how much data? I mean, and maybe we go ahead and include open ends, but that just say something like,
I'm still leaning survey myself. I'm wondering, I think we should look into the focus group And I'm wondering is, I know some people do these things over video conference, Zoom. Is that what we're talking about, or do we feel like it needs to be in person?
Oh, I would think we'd want to Zoom it
Okay, I just
because
wanted
we
to.
could get
Okay,
people from all over the state.
yeah. Is that what y'all were thinking, Brandon, Nadine?
I came
Yeah,
up
for
with the
sure.
idea like 5 minutes ago, so I haven't planned it out.
Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, that sounds good. I mean, I've done events with like Reimagining Project and Poor
Mhm.
People's Campaign, and I mean we've set up our own events with like with Next Gen and things like that. So yeah, as long as we're able to get it out where the students are able to receive it, right? Like either a mobilized link or we have some contacts at the colleges, we can put them on their like career board or stuff like that. So
Yeah.
as long as we can get it advertised, then it sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
and
would,
then one
sorry.
advantage of a Zoom, or I'm using Zoom just as the catch-all for a video conference, but one advantage of that is you can also right before you part, you could have a survey form. It's get some additional information, and a lot of times, the QR code, people will go ahead and do it if you make it the last part of the meeting. That's a little trick we've learned, and is very effective. So that way we could also get a survey element to it as well if there are additional questions we believe might not come out in the Zoom session.
So here,
I think the first might also complement the second. So given that it's probably going to take a little more logistics work to pull together those focus groups, if we really shrunk the survey aspect down and made it really, really granular, one or two questions that were, a multiple choice sort of format, which of the following do you feel is the biggest barrier to your ability to vote as a college student, or maybe two questions along those lines that complement one another, that may help shape how you build the focus groups and what sort of agenda you would keep
that's
during the
interesting.
focus group.
Yeah, good idea.
Or what about doing like a 5-question survey?
Hmm.
Maybe a couple of knowledge questions about basic election, I don't know, stuff like and maybe in the true false. And then an open-ended question about can you tell us why you didn't vote? I don't know. I liked your idea though, Myron, of giving this to a couple of people and having them come up with like a survey.
Hmm. Yeah.
Or what the survey would look like, and then I could program it and I would have a link that I could give to Leslie. So
Mhm.
I think my problem is I want to make it a bigger deal than it has to be. Like I want to get all formal because that's what I do. And maybe that's not what we need.
Well, can you be one of the couple people though who help us
Oh
narrow?
yeah, I can be one of
Okay.
the couple people.
Who's the other of the couple of people? Don't make me pick someone. I mean, I would be happy to be your second on this, Martha. So.
I can help.
Why
Oh,
don't you
okay.
help Nadine? That
Yeah.
would be
Okay.
great.
All
And
right.
so
Great.
why
And
don't we pick a
I
time? Ted?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I conveniently had my headset switched over as my wife started the car. I'm happy to help with the formatting of those as well.
Okay.
So this is not a hard survey to program into a online survey program called Qualtrics.
Mm-hmm.
And I could do that once we had the questionnaires. And then, like I said, it comes up with a link, it comes up with a QR code that we could push out through Leslie.
Okay.
If we did this sometime in the next month and a half, if we could get it out before school was over, we could so that's the question, right? That would give us some information.
Yeah.
About why students aren't voting for the
Yeah.
report, if we wanted that to be our.
Okay. And so that
So-
needs to be what, school's out in May. I'm kind of out of touch.
Yeah,
with
so
the
finals
dates.
week would be like in May. When does your
Okay.
school get out, Nadine?
First week of May.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe if we get together in the next week or two and come up with a survey and then send it out to you guys, to everybody on the committee, to say, we like it, we don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound good to everyone?
That sounds great. Yeah.
So let's figure out a time to meet. about how to make this a good, quick survey and not a big deal. And so then we'll create the survey. And then we can, I mean, a focus group, I suppose, is a possibility if we could grab someone from, you know, some of the schools. I mean, like we could get Chris Cooper to come up with a, you know, he's one of the other steering committee members. He could find someone at Western Carolina. I could find someone at UNC Charlotte. Bitzer could find somebody at
Alva.
Catawba. Nadine could find somebody at UNCW. We could get someone like Andy Gibson to come up with someone from NC State, or I could get my dumb kid to participate in it or something, although he did not vote yesterday.
And what was his reason? How would he answer the survey?
Well, so, you know, the person that he was depending on, so his best friend, I'll get his best friend to do it. His best friend is very political, and his mother didn't bother him in good enough time to get an absentee ballot. So I'm wondering why his best friend didn't get him to get an absentee ballot. Why mom has to be the helicopter mom, I don't know, but.
Well, I mean, maybe we have the North Carolina Political Science Association meeting. We could probably recruit some students there.
Holy crap, well, I know, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, they're there. They're kind of like, they don't, usually students at conferences are more than happy to participate in whatever.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. But are they the students? They're off. Yeah, that's what we're gonna get anyway. So why don't we ask Chris if we can do a focus group at the conference?
Yeah, that I think like there should be, I think there should be a representative selection of students there. I think there should be.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a whole panel for undergrads at the North Carolina Political Science Association. And it's in like the third week of March.
Oh,
They must have given you a PhD, Nadine. You're so smart.
No, I'm on the board.
You are on the board. Well, that's good news. Okay.
And I chose the best undergraduate paper. So I know there are undergrads who go.
Okay.
Okay, well, this is good. This is kind of taking on a life of its own, which we want. Looking at time we have left in this meeting and length of agenda, I think we're probably going to have to make some choices here. I do want to talk about that next item, which is engaging with the civic education committee on civic education. Is that just a matter, Martha and others, of, you know, one of our group taking the lead to make that contact and then we'll go from there? Is that what we're doing here? Or are we deciding how we want to engage with them?
So what they're supposed to be or kind of doing, Nadine, you're not on that committee, are you? Is anybody on that committee?
Which committee?
Civic education?
No, Brandon and I are on the mail-in voting one though.
Cool.
Okay.
They are kind of a weird committee because it was a self-formed committee, and their idea was, they formed the day of the October 9th event, which, wow, how cool is that? But one thing that they're trying to figure out what to do is, you know, how to push out sort of educational materials. And that was a big theme of our last meeting.
It was,
right, that there are a lot of things that people don't know about voting. And so it sort of made me wonder if there wasn't a way that we could work together to, or have the committees work together to say, you know, we think that, is it possible that we could maybe plan something around college student voting, around felon voting, around disability voter access, kinds of things.
Okay. Who is the head of that committee, or co-heads, or?
That would be Pat Martinez, and they're meeting next. No, I lied. it's not Pat Martinez, it's Damon Circosta
Okay, yeah, I know him. Yeah.
and Jim Morrill, who I assume you also know.
Okay, yep. Mhm.
You know, journalist types kind of
Right,
hang
right,
together
okay.
sometimes, right? And Catherine Kump, I think might be, or no, she's not the,
It's Lucy Russell.
thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, yeah, well, let me reach out. Rachel, should I start with or Sakasta or any of the three is good.
I would say Jim seems to be kind of taking more of a backstage approach.
Okay, gotcha.
Either Lucy or Damon. Damon's, I mean, they're both really receptive. So
Gotcha. Okay, all right, okay.
either of them work.
All right, I'll take the lead, reach out on them. And I could kind of just want to see what they're working on. You know, it could save us some time from our perspective. Because you're right, Martha. I remember the last discussion. It's in our meetings, in our minutes, that there was a lot of talk about voter education. That's a big one on my personal agenda as well, just to see that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're not wrong. It's
Yeah.
something that we need to do, definitely.
Okay. All right. Now, I know we wanted to brainstorm strategies to address barriers and improve voter access. That's kind of broad. I kind of feel like we're doing that. If I can sort of meld that with item 5, I'm melding 3 and 5 for the record. Prioritize topics. Now, I think by pursuing the survey the way we are, we're clearly prioritizing access for college students, you know, which I think is a huge and will only continue to be a growing issue. So I think that's great. We have on here felon voting, language translations, and disabled voters access. How do we want to address these? Is this part of our voter education piece? I would think that would at least overlap because there are lots of questions related to this. I think I may have shared with this group, you know, in recent elections, particularly when President Obama won, I got a lot of questions, people just asking me, well, it was them, they had a felony, or, you know, can I vote? So there's lots of questions related to that. I did a story on Campbell University has they award bachelor's degrees. Now I want to say actually all the way up to PhD to inmates, and it's a very small program. But I went to a graduation at Scotland Correctional Institution prison, and it was just a powerful ceremony. But one thing that really struck me in talking to the people as they were transitioning, the former inmates as they were transitioning out, or some still had some time to serve, but they're eventually going to be out. All the things they don't have, like license, you know, that would be one immediate barrier for a lot of them, or just other things they have. So there's a lot of barriers to justice-involved people voting and keeping the franchise, getting back the franchise once they've lost it. So is there any work or anything that our committee can look into in terms of that, or that would be useful to look into?
So let me just say, so we don't have to necessarily do anything ourselves, like education of felons, but
Right.
this should and could be a topic, if everybody agrees, that we put as recommendations in our report.
Okay.
So maybe we'll come up with at the end, you know, these are, I feel like these 3 topics that are on the agenda: felon voting, language transitions, and disabled voter access, are all things that we're concerned about.
Yeah.
We could, you know, draft something about here's what we do now.
Okay.
It sounds like you are very well positioned to write a little bit of language around that for felon votes. And then we could talk about or deliberate at the next meeting, you know, after we have that little, you know, maybe after we have that bit, we could deliberate what should we recommend that North Carolina do to help justice involved people? Since they have the right to vote, right? This
Mhm.
is not a political issue. They have the right to vote once they're done with their probation and their
Mhm.
parole.
Parole, right.
What could we do to make sure that they have the right?
Mhm.
So, you know, we know, for example, that they do get information when they leave prison,
They do, yeah.
but it's, and they're notified that they don't lose their right to vote in North Carolina, I think, is what I understand from the research. But often people then don't register
Mhm.
that are felons, right? They're not, it's either it's not at the top of their agenda,
Mhm.
or it's you know, they just didn't see it.
Yeah,
And they think from the media, you know, everybody thinks, even my students had a professor tell them that felons aren't allowed to vote. And I'm like,
that's
well,
right. It's
that
common.
professor is wrong, student.
Right, exactly.
I don't know who told you that, but, and maybe they were more conditional than the student made it sound, because obviously you have to finish your parole and
Yeah.
and you know, it's been kind of contentious in North Carolina.
Mhm.
So what would you guys think about? So Myron, why don't
Yeah.
you, maybe that's what you do. We write a little bit around that.
Yeah, so how about if we just to divvy up the work here, take the three and maybe have one person take the lead and just researching what's out there now and then writing it up. Um, so just let me speak out if you want one of these categories. There's felon voting, language translations, or disabled voter access. And all we want is just a brief write-up, a summary, if you will, of what's the current state of play. And then we get together as a group, we kind of look at, you know, and we'll share all that out, and then we get together as a group, we can look at where, if there's changes needed in terms of either voter education or the process, is something we can recommend.
I can do language translations.
Okay, gotcha. Indeed. Okay.
So Myron, felons.
Okay.
And I can look in, this is Ted, I can look into the disabled voter.
Okay. And I can
Category.
do felon voting unless someone else wants to. I don't want to take it from someone who might want to do it. Okay. I'll do felon voting.
And can I second
Yeah, go ahead.
what someone said in terms of kind of what the output here is? That was helpful for, I think maybe that was Martha who made the comment about what we need to do as a committee. And as we report out, it seems helpful that if the objective of this committee is to give input to how elections can be better run in the state, if we sort of think about these three topics, those three categories of voters, plus our college voters, and sort of represent that in terms of, I was kind of thinking of it in terms of like an XY axis. If we've got like the number of people who are affected or who fit into this criteria, so the number of folks who may qualify as a person within the justice system or who need language support, et cetera. So that's on the Y-axis, and on the X-axis is, you know, the degree to which they are impacted by these barriers. That might be a helpful frame to give our recommendations and to bring attention to these particular groups with.
Good points. Good points.
So maybe part of the task with us putting some language around those three topics, we should also maybe represent how many people are likely impacted in the state as disabled voters or folks who have English as a second language or don't speak English at all.
Yeah, I think that's very important to include numbers where relevant. You don't want to inundate it with numbers, so you just get something no one wants to read. But you want to have the relevant figures that shows the scope of it, because you know it could be we look into these, and I don't think this is going to be the case, and find out that it's a much smaller problem or issue than we think it is. I doubt that. But if we have those numbers, that helps makes the case. Also in this research, one of our, I guess will be our last topic, I believe, for this meeting is topic experts, potential topic experts. So as you're pulling together info, Nadine and Ted, and just a reminder for myself, I just think naturally you're going to see people who know about this speaking about it. So just kind of keep a list of those folks.
So
in mind.
let me jump in here and
Yeah,
say
please.
that, so Rachel, I know you're taking notes and paying close attention, but there was someone on one of the committees, one of my committees, who was with Disability North Carolina. Can you recall her name?
That is Tara Muller.
So I think, do you think it's okay if we connect, Ted, so you're gonna do the disability access?
Yes.
Can we connect? And she's on the voter, she's not on this one. She's on the civic, is she on civic education? Which one is she?
Maybe on civic education. Let me just
I
verify.
feel
Because I'm
like
looking
I'm
at
on the
the
committee,
voter
but it may not be
infrastructure
the same one.
and administration. But Ted, I would love to connect you two, because I think she probably has some resources that she could,
Yeah,
or some
Rachel.
things that she could share.
Yeah, Rachel, I'll shoot you an inquiry after the meeting over email, and when it's convenient for you, if you just respond back to me with how to get a hold of her, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to add that she is on this committee. So it might
Okay,
just
I
be
was
that
thinking she was on one of the committees and I didn't see her here today. And I was looking at election infrastructure. And she's not on
Okay,
that committee.
this committee, okay, all right. I knew there was some committee that we were on together. I didn't know if it was my
Isn't that
other
funny?
committee.
Oh, that's sad. There she is, Tara Muller. So Ted, I want
You
to.
might be better suited than me. I'll stick
Can
my
I
hand up
put
for the next
her
one.
email in the chat and you can, can you see the chat?
Yeah, y'all can work it together. That's perfectly.
Is
Yeah,
there's her?
I cannot see the chat, but I will reach out to Rachel,
Yeah, with
or
Rachel.
if somebody
Okay.
wants to.
I
Cool.
can connect
Yep.
the three of you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That would be perfect. Oh my goodness, that is so funny. I guess the other thing, then is I have I have a research pack at Myron that you might or might not find useful that I can give you, that my
Okay.
students put together.
Okay.
It's pretty, I've discovered it's quite long, because I tried to give it to my other committee and I think it was just too long, and so
Yeah.
lesson learned. Practitioners don't have a lot of time, but I have a research packet about felon voting that I can pass
Okay.
on to you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that'd be
There's
helpful.
just at least some stuff about current events and some of the research that was done.
Okay. Okay. Good.
And
That'll be
it's
helpful.
not the, let's talk when we're done here. And then I have one on disabled voter access, but I think, Ted, that your best bet. Well, I have a couple of research summaries about some research that has been conducted by a couple of professors up at Rutgers University.
Mm-hmm.
Shear and Cruz do a lot of disability research. I'm not sure, it's not going to give you a lot of information about North Carolina, and I actually think we need to really hone in on North Carolina, but I can, if you decide you want more information, I can give you some research on that about disability rights.
Okay.
May I ask if you just pass that my way, and then after I speak with Tara, I can use that as a resource to cross-reference. If it's no trouble to you, just send it my way.
No, don't. Okay, so it's in the disability rights, and then send Myron. All right.
All right.
So,
Go ahead, Martha.
well, I want to make sure that everybody gets a voice. So that's definitely that's here. Susan and Tony, do you have any ideas of things that that you think we need to be talking about or that we haven't addressed?
I don't, except I just wondered if it would be good for us to bring in any of these experts, the people, instead of, the work of doing a whole lot of research on this ourselves, if we could bring in the experts to address us for,
Mhm.
you
And
know,
I
even
think that
15
was,
minutes each.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
kind of think that's what we had talked about, and
Yeah.
potentially why they're even on this agenda right now, what experts that could come in and talk to us.
Right, because I just feel like that's helpful for all of us when
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
know their subject, and
Yeah.
that might be easier for us.
Mhm.
I think it
So-
might also be a good idea for us to talk to like the poll workers who, how do they help these? Like, we have all these policies and laws, but I think some of the problems are like, they don't know how to use the voting machines or like
Mhm.
set them up, or they have all these extenuating circumstances that they don't know how to deal with. But maybe it would be a good idea to talk to. I sit in my ivory tower, so I don't know what like the real situation is.
Mhm.
Maybe someone who if there's like a large Latino community, a poll worker in that area who has to deal with voters who don't speak English regularly, or someone, I mean, I could probably find a poll worker who works at our early voting centers at our senior center, so they probably have a lot of experience with people with disabilities, but maybe we could find some poll workers and to discuss how it really is, what it's really like.
I think that's a great idea, and people that have experience in it, and firsthand they've seen the problems themselves.
Also, the county board of elections folks. Susan, I'm thinking about Petrea Hunter in Rowan County. She's a wealth of experience, and I think she would be attuned to a whole myriad of issues that might be running into.
Yeah. Henry Diggs, you know Henry Diggs, he's somebody else that serves as a judge, and you know, he'd be a great one.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I would love, but I'm not the chair. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
not taking over. I'm just, I'm coaching.
I like the idea as well. Yeah, it's very good.
So you have specific people. So I mean, we could. It would be great if we could line up somebody maybe to come to our April meeting
Okay.
and talk to us about these. And what I'm hearing is we're saying we're finding out if people, how poll workers and the election directors that we know, and so
Mhm.
maybe that's what we're bringing in, how they're directed to handle
Mhm.
disabilities
Okay.
and directed
Yeah.
to handle people who are felons. So I don't know. Okay, so let me just throw this out. If you guys want to, first, Shara Blackburn on the Election Infrastructure Committee would love to talk about this, but she's a Wake County poll worker.
Uh-huh.
And I bet I could line her up to come to one of our meetings or come to the April meeting and talk for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And maybe Tony, you line up, you said, you know, the.
Sure. Member of the county board of elections.
Mhm.
And so what county would that be?
Rowan.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Susan, you said you knew a poll worker or two?
Well, this is a judge here, but it's also Rowan. I think it might be good to have more diversity in our the areas instead of, you know, the same
Good point.
county.
Good point.
But you know,
Nadine, you said you knew people. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'll be glad to ask him unless somebody else has an idea of a person.
Okay, and just to clarify who we have, our guests, they'll address the 3 areas we're talking about: felon voting, disabled access, and what was the other one?
Language
transition.
Well, and college students too. So maybe
right.
So let me just throw out what I'm seeing, and you all tell me if this is what you're seeing.
Okay.
So I'm seeing we have like a little panel of people who talks to us about accessibility issues, and it's a poll worker person, a election board person, another poll worker from, I don't know, maybe Nadine, you could ask your person you might know who's been working with the elderly people?
I
And-
don't know anyone firsthand, but I do know that there's a professor who's I think the chair of our county board, and I could always ask him. It's a German professor is the
Nine.
yeah, at UNCW. So I could find someone, but I don't know anyone firsthand, but I think I could probably find someone.
So we're talking
There's-
about like 3 or 4 people that talk to us about their experience with Access?
Yeah, I think that
At
would be
the same
good. I think
time?
4 is a good number too around there because, you know, they'll all have a lot to say and they'll all be very, very good, you know, so.
Would it be better to
keep
have
it
them
manageable. Yeah.
better at the same time or separately?
I like
That's
the idea of a
awesome.
panel, just because I think they'll kind of bounce off each other. But I'm open to suggestions on that.
Do you think do you guys think it's a good idea? Because I like it too, but I don't want to, I can shut up. I can't shut up.
No, I think it's a great
Me
idea.
too.
Like I said, I'd like to hear from people that have the experience, the firsthand
Yeah.
experience.
Same. Yeah.
It's on
Because
this-
they certainly can be the ones that can tell us what the problems are
Mhm.
that need to be addressed.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
These meetings, I wanted to clarify because and I know you would know, Martha and Rachel as well. The meetings that they would speak at, we're still in the public phase, right?
I would think this would be a public phase meeting.
Okay,
don't you
all
think,
right. So
Rachel?
I just think
Yeah.
that, you know, when we reach out to people, they should know that as well.
Yeah.
So, well, you can tell them that, you know, we're fact finding about this.
Mhm.
We're gathering some information that might be, oh,
It's Sam.
hi,
Okay.
Sam. It might be,
Mr. National Interstate Pact. Go ahead. Sorry, Martha, go ahead.
but no, it's all right. But we're putting together information that'll be part of the report, but we also want to get the firsthand knowledge of people who have been in the trenches and kind of what's going on. And so we thought we would pull together some people and ask them questions.
All right, yeah, that'll be good, I think.
Dad, it's the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact.
I know.
So let me what time is it? Ooh, we've gone over. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah,
But let me
It's fine.
just make sure I have everything that I need to do. So I'm gonna work on the survey with Myron and Nadine. So
Mhm.
we need to, after everyone needs, we need to figure out a time. Nadine and I are probably gonna try and do a focus group among college students at the North Carolina Political Science Association, a bunch of professors. And then Tony is gonna get his friend.
County board.
I'm gonna ask
member.
Shara, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, county board member.
Right, your
Board of
friend, the
Elected
county
Officials.
board member.
Yes.
Ted is gonna, let's see, I was gonna ask Shira Blackburn, who's from Wake County, and I'm sure would love to talk about this. She is a wealth of knowledge. I've chatted with her and we have Nadine working on language translations, disabled voters, Ted, Myron felons. So we were gonna find maybe a third person aside from the election board member. And Shira, Nadine, were you gonna try and locate someone who worked with the I don't know what to call it, the nursing home?
The senior center. Yeah, I
The
can
senior
reach out.
center?
But I also know I forget her name, but I know she's involved in this bigger group. She's not on the committees I'm in, but I think she's the chair at Brunswick County, and that county has
That's Sarah
old-
LeVere.
Yeah.
that county also has an older population. So if I'm unable to locate someone, she
Oh, we
would
should
be-
ask her, yeah.
Yeah, Brunswick County, I believe, has the highest 60+ age population.
Wow.
So,
So yeah, then
they
let's cross off one less thing that I need to do and have her.
We have a long time elections director retired a few years ago, Terry Robertson, and just ran great elections straight down the middle, called balls and strikes, had respect both sides of the aisle. I'll see if she wants to do it. I don't know. I've interviewed her several times, but I think she's the kind of person that when she retired, she's fully retired and doesn't really want to be dragged back in any way. But I will ask her anyway and report back to see what she says. Because it's something that's so near and dear to her heart. Because she's seen the whole process. She went through the era of, way back how elections were done into the modern era of different kinds of voting. So I think she would have an opinion. I don't know if she'd be willing to share it, but because she played her cards close to the vest, which is, how you kind of want your elections director to be. So maybe she could be more candid now that she's retired, but I will definitely reach out to her.
Perfect.
That's coming.
Susan, you're muted.
Got it. Let me just ask, our next meeting is April 3rd. Is that correct? 4 o'clock?
Yes, April
Okay,
3rd.
because I don't have it on my calendar. Okay.
Good.
Okay, that's what I
Okay,
need. Thank you.
perfect. Samuel? Okay, well, is there anything else we
Okay.
need to think about? So Tony, you have my contact information, and Rachel can get your guest, the Rowan election board member, a link.
Yes, sure.
And I would love to know too, like the status of that, just so I can kind of, like, if it all goes good and he wants to participate, that'd be great to know.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. It's just a great idea.
One of you had the
All right.
RSVP for
Well, thank you, everybody.
So Myra and Nadine, stay
Yeah.
on, and let's
Will do,
find a
yeah.
time we can meet and talk about the potential survey, and then we'll
Okay.
have that ready. So watch out for maybe us to send you a potential survey sometime in the next few weeks
Yeah.
that you can
Take a look at
approve or
it.
not approve. Is that okay, guys? Everybody? Because if we want to do this before the end of school to get data for this report,
You got to get moving. Yeah.
we should get moving. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Thanks.
Okay. See y'all.
Good.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.